Okay, so I'm going to get into a bit of a rant about Brexiteers in a minute. But first and foremost, the Queen has now just signed off and given Bojo the permission to prorogue Parliament when Parliament gets back into session. So, what does this mean? This means that every single Brexiteer politician who was on the Brexit campaign lied. Because not a single damn one of them said we would have a no deal. There was one politician who kept saying no deal will be better than a bad deal, and that was Theresa May. But every single Brexiteer politician said, of course we will have a deal and it will be amazing. Bojo's course of action to essentially shut down Parliament for a number of weeks so that he can't be replaced is a way of completely destroying any prospects of a good Brexit. I mean, there is no good Brexit, but there's certainly less devastating and less self-destructive versions of it than others. And a no-deal Brexit is as bad as it gets. There's 176 countries we have trade deals with that are just gone. That is alienating our closest allies in terms of what they've done for us and where they are geographically. That's shitting on everything that made Great Britain great, because we bothered to listen to liars and thieves rather than actually holding people accountable. Now, we do kind of have this almost rebel alliance between the Lib Dems, Labour, SNP, Plaid Cymru, but I have no faith in that whatsoever, and it's because of the Lib Dems. I mean, every single time we get that little bit close to needing the Lib Dems to actually stand up for this country, they betray us. I mean, they did it with Corbyn's tabled motion of no confidence. It's not just about Theresa May leading us out of the European Union. It's also universal credits. It's also the police being gutted. It's also armed forces being gutted. It's fire and rescue being cut back and dismantled. It's the destruction of the NHS. It's schools around the country saying, look, we haven't got the money to stay open for 5 full bloody days, and then having the education budget cut twice. And yet the Lib Dems still sided with Theresa May and the Conservatives above all else, because you can't have someone who's not an establishment politician being the number 10. And the new leader of the Lib Dems is exactly the same as the old one, with hollow promises that do not line up with her particular voting record. Maybe she has changed, but I struggle to go along with that. So essentially they'd have to be on it from day one, straight away. No, Boris, you fucking moron, you're not doing this to the country we live in. But I don't see that happening, so we are most likely going to have a no deal Brexit. And I'm caught because a small part of me wants to say, well, you know what, fuck it, bring it on. And all of you Brexiteers are going to suffer because of it. Enjoy the bed you've made. But it's not just Brexiteers who are suffering from this. It's Ramonas. It's the people who didn't vote because they didn't know which way to go. It's the ones who got confused so they couldn't vote. It's the people who fought in World War II. People I used to look after. Regardless of how they voted, this is going to affect them in a negative way. It's the kids who didn't get a chance to vote. They're getting affected by this too. Now, months ago, maybe even a year ago, I did a video saying I was done with Trump supporters. And in the video, I said, if you didn't know beforehand that Donald Trump set up a charity to help children with cancer, and then took every single penny for himself and his bastard kids. Okay, you didn't know that about the man. If you didn't know that his ex-wife in court, the reason for the divorce, she stated, is because when he came home, he violently beat and raped her, ripping chunks out of her hair. If you didn't know that, okay, you didn't know that. You can't defend either of those two things, but if you didn't know that, fine. But every single day he showed himself to be the same vile, disgusting piece of shit. So if you still support him, you're a horrible person. You are. You're a horrible human being. And at this point with Brexit, I'm getting on the same level. Now, not everyone who voted Brexit is a bad person. Not everyone who voted Brexit is a racist or anything else like that. But if you still support Brexit with everything that's come out, every single expert relevant to their field have come out and said, education's fucked. The NHS is fucked. Customs, screwed. Research into green projects, despite the fact that we only have 12 years to sort out climate change. Yeah, that's fucked. National security. Trade. Agriculture. The number of industries and sectors in this country that are propped up by EU citizens. Fucked. And it gets even worse than that. Because for the last few weeks, we've now seen story after story of all these EU citizens, and we said, look, you want to stay in this country, fine. You have to go on this particular site, go through this particular app, and we'll get you sorted. They didn't say is that unless you have a relatively new phone, you're kind of screwed with that. If you've got an old phone or a cheap phone, a cheap knockoff phone, the app's not going to work for you at all. So that's already a hurdle. And then you've got the actual app that without warning flashes bright coloured lights at you. So if you suffer from epilepsy, that's light sensitive epilepsy, that will put you into a seizure. Didn't tell anyone about that. Then the cost, 70, 77, something like that pounds. But it's okay because you'll get it back. I know people who applied as soon as this whole process started, paid 70 odd quid, they've still not had it back, and they've still not had anything that says they're allowed to stay in this country. And these are people who work in social care. These are people who look after people you really don't want on the street. And that's where they're going with the Conservatives, but you really don't want them there. And then in the last couple of weeks, we see just how many people have actually been rejected. Even someone who cooked for the damn royal family has been told, yeah, no, you don't get to stay in this country. I mean, you're skilled, you're talented, you bring us a lot of business, you're fantastic, but we don't want you. Even more heartbreaking than that, a few days ago I read one with a woman who was brought here by her parents when she was 2 years old. She's only ever lived in this country. She doesn't speak German. She doesn't know German culture. She doesn't have German family left. She doesn't have friends in German. She is as British as you could be without actually being born on this little island. This little island that depends on Europe to maintain its status as one of the big dogs of the world. She's been kicked out. After these 3 years, if you still support Brexit, whatever the initial reason was, because the initial reason you got conned, fine. Or maybe you hate how the EU treated Greece, which is fine. I understand that, I get that. But after all of this, if you still support Brexit, I mean, you're a horrible person. That's how simple it is. And you may not think that, and obviously people don't think they're horrible. But it's going to be the end of the NHS. Education is already on its last legs. Social care, I work in social care. I know how bad it is and how devastated we're going to be when all these EU citizens get kicked out. Agriculture, working in the factories. Then are standing on the world stage and people still come along saying, oh, the US is going to save us. No, because we've just taken a massive shit on Ireland. And it turns out a lot of American politicians have strong Irish ties. And they're very proud of their Irish heritage. Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House controlled by Democrats who have to sign off on this, has said categorically they will not have a deal with the UK unless the Good Friday Agreement is upheld. And a no deal Brexit takes a fucking cricket bat to that. 3 years we've had nothing but horror come from Brexit. So just like Donald Trump, if you still support Donald Trump, you're a fucking horrible human being. And if you still support Brexit, in this version of Brexit, the one that we are getting, I'm sorry, but you're a horrible person. And I'm done with you.